The Steelers won again, and this is now a couple of wins in a row, or actually 3 wins in a row. Raiders, Jets, Giants, not exactly world beaters. Those are 3 2-win teams, but it's another win for Pittsburgh.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.
So 26-18, the final score against the New York Giants. Listen, I said coming into this year for my Steelers, it was pretty simple. Defense is going to be awesome, because it always is. They got the best defensive player in football. It's not even remotely close. His name, T.J. Watt. He had 2 sacks this game, including a massive forced fumble, strip sack in the fourth quarter on Daniel Jones to really kind of help the Steelers maintain that 8-point lead and get to the finish line intact with the W. We know Mike Tomlin's a great coach. No losing seasons. Didn't think that changed this year. We know the Steelers have some offensive talent. George Pickens, Najee Harris, who's been on fire as of lately. Jalen Warren, Pat Freiermuth. They got pieces. They just didn't have that guy, that franchise quarterback, manning the ship. Now, for the record, I'm still skeptical about whether or not they do. Extremely skeptical long-term, because it's only a 2-game sample size. But here's what we know, is that, and I was, for the record, a big critic of Mike Tomlin benching Justin Fields after the 4-2 start. Yeah, Justin wasn't putting up insane stat totals, but he was playing good football, not turning it over, playing within Arthur Smith's offense. And my thing was, let's at least see if maybe in what's going to be a weak quarterback draft next year, maybe if Justin Fields is the answer. This is what the Steelers did in the Justin Fields era. Weren't bad. Averaged 20 points a game. Not great. 187, pass yards a game. 131 rush yards per game. A little under 300 total yards per game. 39% on third down with one Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson. Basically everything, matter of fact, exactly everything has gone up. You've gone from 20 points to 31 points per game. You've gone from, what is that, around 187 pass yards per game? Massive increase to 271. Matter of fact, the rush yards per game, and that was with Justin Fields running the football effectively in his 6 starts. Rush yards per game has gone up as well to 158. Total yards per game has skyrocketed from 298 to 417. More on that in just a moment. Third down percentage has gone up slightly, 39% to 40%. The Steelers are converting at a higher rate on big downs. The thing with Russell Wilson is this. I think at this stage, and I've been critical of this, I used to be a big-time Russell Wilson advocate. Then the first year in Denver happened. I'm like, okay, I got to sell all my stock. But he has a solid year last year with the Broncos. The numbers were a touch misleading. I think it was something like 25 touchdowns, 8 picks. My thing was, yeah, Sean Payton works with basically every quarterback. He's the quarterback whisperer. Of course, Russell was going to work. I was skeptical about whether or not that would be able to be replicated in Pittsburgh, PA, as good as an offensive coordinator as I think Arthur Smith is. Here's one thing we have to do with Russell Wilson now. Whether you think he's going to be the long-term solution for Pittsburgh or not, at least the rest of this season, and take the Steelers to new heights, I think it's fair to say I was wrong. We all were wrong. In that we've got to toss the first Denver year out. We got to toss it out. Especially when if I'm going to go on this show and over the course of the season until he's demoted, at least bash Nat Hackett the way I have and say that every offense that man's ever had has been terrible. Well, that's got to apply to Russell Wilson as well, in the sense that, hey, Russell, we're seeing right now, clearly can still play, certainly more so than I thought he would. Nat Hackett fooled a lot of us for a lot of reasons. I had us thinking Russell Wilson was terrible. He's not terrible. Is he great? Doubt it. Terrible? No. So we got to throw that first Denver year out. For Pittsburgh, and spoiler, they're going to be on Bryson's best 10 in about 35 to 40 minutes. But the thing about the Steelers has always been pretty simple the last few years. It's, the defense is going to show up. T.J. Watt is going to be a game wrecker. Mike Tomlin's going to get the best out of his group. But can the offense show up on a consistent basis? And the thing that I've always said, or at least that I said last season about Mike Tomlin, is that great coach, great at making halftime adjustments, amazing. Mike Tomlin might be, along with Andy Reid, the 2 best situational fourth quarter coaches in football. Way better than Kyle Shanahan. That's kind of his bugaboo. And I love Shanahan. I think better than McVay, better than Dan Campbell. So the best coaches in the league aren't as good situationally as Reid and Tomlin. But after last season was over, and a year where the Steelers somehow, some way, in large part because of Tomlin, won 10 games and made the playoffs with 3 backup quarterbacks, Pickett, Trubisky, Rudolph, my thing was, okay, coach, you're a First Hall of Famer, no doubt, no losing seasons, a Super Bowl champion, went to another one. But you haven't won a playoff game since 2016. I need to see some evolution to the modern NFL. You can still, like the Niners, by the way, have done it for years, where you can have a great defense and simultaneously be really innovative on offense. Like the Chiefs have done that the last couple of seasons. I need to see that. When Mike Tomlin hired Arthur Smith, who a fourth of the league, reports will tell you, 8 teams were going after Arthur Smith as their OC. When they got Arthur Smith, given his history with the Tennessee Titans as their OC, I'm like, oh, okay, that shows me a little bit of a culture shift. Getting a creative offensive play caller who made Ryan Tannehill, I think, a Pro Bowler. Like, that's, who could ever seen that coming? What will they do at the quarterback position? Will they draft somebody? Will they maybe wait and sign Dak Prescott next offseason, which I was imploring them heavily to do? That's obviously off the table. But they signed Russell Wilson, who's better than what they had last year for his flaws, at least perceived flaws at the time. And they get Justin Fields, who certainly has a higher upside than the guys they had the last couple of seasons. Here's what I'll say. There are folks I'm seeing out there that are putting the Steelers as like up there as like one of the 2 or 3 biggest threats to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not ready to go there yet. Because you got to remember, last 3 wins, Raiders, Jets, Giants, all 3 awful teams. Each team has their strength. The Raiders have Brock Bowers. The Jets, actually, I don't think they have a strength. The Giants have a great defensive line. But you're supposed to win those games. And that was kind of the thing with the Steelers, is that these first 8 to 9 games, Washington's better than we thought coming into the season. But it was like, you got to go like 6-2, 7-1 to start the year, because the end of your schedule is brutal. You got Kansas City. You got the Houston Texans, I believe. I think they've got Houston. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles, who are tough offensively. Like, you've got Cincinnati twice, Baltimore twice. It's a tough closing schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers. How can they get the job done? And this is the first time this is insane, folks, since 2018 that the Steelers have gone 2 straight games of over 400 yards of offense. 2 straight games, 400 yards of offense. Has not happened since the 2018 season. If this offense is able to sustain Russell Wilson, who, again, I had questions about, coming out of Denver. Here's what we know about Russ. And I thought this was gone. I was wrong. Russell still got the deep ball. Russell in his prime in Seattle had the most beautiful deep ball. What they call the moon ball in the NFL. Just that crazy arc. I mean, dropping right down to the breadbasket of the wide receiver. He still got that. To George Pickens, to Calvin Austin. He still got that in his game. Najee Harris is running like a man on a mission right now. Best 3-game stretch of his career. Jalen Warren, it's Najee Harris's thunder. Jalen Warren is lightning. Quick, good feet, can catch passes out of the backfield. Pat Freiermuth is a good red zone guy and third down guy. Now, the Steelers, could I see us trading for another receiver to go opposite Pickens at the deadline, especially with the injuries to Roman Wilson? Yeah. Cooper Kupp's off the table. I think the Rams are going to go on a little bit of a run here, but there's plenty of guys out there potentially. Adam Thielen, I wouldn't be against trading for him at the Carolina Panthers. Again, good veteran player, still productive. He's just in a bad situation with Carolina. But the Steelers have no question exceeded my expectations. If you'd have told me they'd be 6-2 at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't. There's a lot of winnable games the first part of their schedule. Now, there's some tough ones, Atlanta, the Chargers, etc. But if you told me they'd be 6-2 and have a very real offense, elite, not ready to go there yet. Real, productive, makes other teams, makes other defensive coordinators sweat a little bit. Yeah, that has surprised me. It would have. I think Arthur Smith is going to improve the offense, not to this level. And so, listen. And by the way, it's 26-18. Do the math. It should have been 34-18. Now you could say the Giants should have cashed in on their red zone opportunities, but the Steelers had 2 touchdowns wiped off the board. George Pickens caught a touchdown, got wiped out because Broderick Jones again committed a brutal penalty, and then George Pickens looks like another touchdown and just didn't get his foot down. He's got to be better about getting that second foot in bounds. But this is they're top of the AFC North, second about toughest division of football in my estimation to the NFC North. Pittsburgh's a real team. They have an elite coach. They have an excellent offensive coordinator. They're, by the way, great on special teams. Great on special teams. Great kicker, kick returners, punt blocks, kick blocks. And then offensively, you've got a deep ball guy in George Pickens who is, I've said for years, special with the football in his hands. Great running game. I still have questions about that O-line, and I still have questions if Russell Wilson is going to be able to sustain this. But if he does, my Steelers might very well be a Super Bowl contender. Now, I'll say this. I will bet against Patrick Mahomes when he gives me a reason to. He's yet to give me a reason to. Manny at Lost and Santa came to town last year. So, but I think the Steelers are in great positioning. AFC North is very, very much on the table. It's Steelers, Baltimore. I don't think Cincinnati can catch up to us or the Ravens, but Pittsburgh's in a really good spot right now. There's no question about it. And listen, this is Russell Wilson at this stage of his career can't carry you the way he could Seattle in between like the 2016 and 20 seasons, but give him a good defense. I mean, we know Russell, and I said this when he was signed, as skeptical as I was, he was cheap, and he's way better than what we had last year, which ain't saying much, but he was. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.